Welcome to our webinar this afternoon, sponsored by DOE, Department of Energy, Nuclear Energy, to present our 2016 alignment of programs integrated in our nuclear research effort here. And we're very pleased to present this as early as possible this year. I'm coming to you from Germantown, Maryland, headquarters of our DOE staff. I wanted to acknowledge, of course, Shane Johnson from DOE NE 4, Mike Worley, our director, Kenny Osborne, our program manager out of DOE Maryland here, and also Aaron Gravel, who's our DOE ID, that's Idaho program manager out of Idaho, who are here with us. I also wanted to acknowledge, as we present here, our integration office staff, including myself, John Gilligan as director, but also Greg Belay as our program manager for the office, and Drew Thomas, who is also here today, running some of the technical components of our presentation. So again, welcome. We're very pleased to present our 2016 program to you over the next several days. And we'll go into as much detail as we need to based on the questions that you ask from us. We have a procedure whereby you type in your questions, and we see those questions here. We will respond to those questions at the end of each of the presentations, and either by the presenter or a combination of the presenter and folks in the room here representing the expertise associated with the program. So John Kotek is NE1, in other words, the Assistant Secretary for Nuclear Energy. We want to acknowledge the support from DOE NE for these programs. This is actually our 8th year for the NEUP portion of this program, which of course is the university support. Very consistent support over the years for our university programs. Over $400 million has been allocated, awarded to universities and others through this integrated effort. A very significant amount of support. In fact, this last year, as a result of that, for university types, you'll be certain to note that 169 PhDs in nuclear engineering were awarded. That's the highest number since 1971 in terms of support generated for graduate students through faculty. We estimate that close to 500 students are supported every year through both the fellowship program and the research assistantships that are associated with these programs. So this year we have some wrinkles, some new aspects to the program that we're going to present to you. Greg will do that as well as Aaron. And basically the program is the same. In other words, it's a peer review program judged by peers, technical as well as relevancy. And I think the key thing for our program here at DOE NE is that it's truly integrated universities with national labs, industry, and other partners in a way that's really unique in this country, I believe, and it's been very successful. So we're very pleased about the new ground that we plowed in along those lines, and we think it's been very successful. In addition, we'll be talking about the combination of not only the NEUP, but also the NEAT program, which is a separate line of funding, and NSUF, which is also a separate line of funding to address infrastructure needs and employment of national facilities for use by universities, industry, and others. Also, we have an infrastructure program that we'll talk about, which is in support of equipment purchases as well as reactor upgrades, et cetera. And we'll be talking about that set of programs as well. Just to give you an idea, of the scope of the kinds of the character of the programs that we've supported over the years, it's not just for nuclear engineers. Only about half of the awards that come out of DOE and E for these programs, the ones that actually go to universities, are really going to nuclear engineering faculty. The rest go to every other kind of faculty member at universities. So this is a broad-ranging, interdisciplinary program. We see that at least 67% in the last round of awards last year went to materials kinds of research efforts as well as addressing waste issues. So there's certainly a character of addressing those needs as part of the DOE NE program. 74% of the awards were experimental. So there are a lot of the awards are significantly higher than what you would receive from NSF, for instance, for that very reason. And so we are able to address experimental kind of exploration, which of course is more expensive than computational work typically. Every year we have new universities receiving awards. This past year we had 32 universities receiving awards. 17% of those universities received awards for the first time. So we have a constant influx of new universities, new faculty involved. 63% actually of the awards that came out of last year's round of awards were to PIs for the first time. That's a significant number, and actually 58% of those, of the total number, were junior faculty. So we're excited about the kind of possibilities we're presenting for new blood in the program associated with nuclear energy, and of course we see that with the success of PhDs awarded that we're very proud of and we feel is inherently important to the success of this country. We also have a significant number of our awards that are with national laboratories that are partners. It's not necessary that you have a national laboratory partner for those universities that are applying, but last year 69% of the awards went to PIs that had, or projects that did have, national laboratory partners. So it's not a bad idea. It's not essential, as I said, but it's a good partnership because the program is truly integrated with the national laboratory efforts. International partnerships are very important to us. 18% of the awards last year had international partners associated with them, especially United Kingdom. Britain has put a significant amount of money, at least last year, into the partnerships, and we're very pleased about this. This year we intend to have a partnership with the Japanese in at least one project and possibly more. So that's very significant for collaboration with foreign entities. And we're not just talking about universities, we're talking about the governments themselves participating with our program. Also new this year, environmental management part of Department of Energy is going to sponsor a number of awards, and we're very pleased to see EM, represented by Monica Reglabuto, as participating with our program, and they're announcing a number of work scopes associated with their kind of projects, which are, of course, very significant in terms of the technical kind of interdisciplinary approach that we have. One final thing I wanted to mention, last year the number of women PIs was 14%. It sounds like a low number, but it's actually quite a good number in terms of faculty participation by women, and we hope to get that number up. That's certainly a number that we are tracking and we feel is very important. I would say one other additional item I wanted to mention up front here, our largest, most prestigious awards, the IRP's Integrated Research Program Awards, this year we're going to increase to 5 with one additional award that's just going to be announced today. Work scope associated with that for a total of $21 million next year. So that's a big increase in terms of the IRP awards that we're going to have available, and will boost the total number of awards for the combined program in excess of 75 million or something like that. I think we're going to have to wait and see how the budget rolls out, but it's going to be a significant amount of funding in the future that we're going to make available to both university, national lab, and other partners. So, of course, you've seen the work scopes. We presented those, sent those out to you. They're available on our website, neup.gov. The FOA has been released in draft form, which you've seen. That was released last week. And so as far as the integrated CINR part of the program, you've seen most of that. There are a couple of additional work scopes that are being put out there right now, and you will see shortly, but some of those will all be explained and described in the next 3 days that will go through each of the work scopes and the presentations. So the first deadline, of course, that you need to be aware of, and this will be all reiterated by Greg and others as we go through the process, is the NSUF letter of intent on August 27th, coming up real quick here, and then the pre-applications that are due for the NEUP and other programs associated that are required that have a pre-application September 17th. So please note those dates. They're coming up pretty quickly, and we don't want you to delay in addressing the needs of those programs. So we're very proud of the programs that we've instituted with the support of DOE over the last 8 years and moving into 2016. And at this time, I want to remind you that we are taking questions, so any questions may come up as a result of my presentation or any of the presentations. You can type those in, and Drew will be here monitoring that and announcing those questions and making sure that folks have an opportunity to get those answered. But at this time, I wanted to introduce Aaron Gravel, who's the DOE Idaho Program Manager for this whole process. In other words, he's the important person that actually makes the awards and gets those dollars out to you in the process. And Aaron is going to provide a welcome and describe key points of the program. Aaron?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. As John stated, my name is Aaron Gravel, and I work as the program manager with the NEUP program at the Idaho Operations Office. And for those of you that don't know, Kenny Osborne had that position prior, and I filled his shoes there. So prior to that, I was working with the Procurement Services Division, and also had the NEA program as part of my portfolio in that role. It's great to be here, and also great to be in that new position. It's been very exciting and interesting, and I've learned a lot here the last 10 months. I want to recognize just a couple of people real quick, just a couple of names. One name that has already been mentioned is Drew Thomas. Drew works with the Integration Office, and for those of you that don't know, many of you may already know, but Drew is very instrumental in helping us make this webinar happen. He's the brains behind the technology that's allowing us to actually move forward and present and have this this webinar, and we're certainly glad to have Drew, and we just want to congratulate Drew on doing such a great job and helping us out so much with this. I also want to mention a couple of other names. The individual that took my spot with the procurement services, he's also at the Idaho Operations Office, and his name is Sean Tinsley, and you'll see that his POC, his contact information, as the POC for procurement is listed in both of the FOA documents. That you haven't seen the infrastructure FOA yet, but you will soon. His name is listed in that one, as well as the draft document that has been posted. Please go to Sean with all of your procurement-related questions, and I'll work with Sean, and we'll make sure that we get those answered for you. Also to mention, this year our contracting officer for both of these awards will be Elliot Dye, and he is also housed out of the Idaho Operations Office. We do want to, again, just to give you a sense of reference here, the numbers that you're going to be interested in jotting down. The FOA number, some of you may have already seen it on the draft, but the actual document number or solicitation number for the FY16 CINR R&D FOA is DE-FOA-0001281. And you'll probably hear that number several times today and over the next couple of days. And just again, point of reference, the infrastructure support FOA, that solicitation number is DE-FOA-0001282, and we'll be introducing that FOA in more detail tomorrow. With that, we certainly appreciate your participation and your attendance with the webinar, and we look forward to your questions. We look forward to having a great year, and we certainly look forward to your applications. And please, just a quick note of caution as well, and we've mentioned this over the years, but please read the FOA. There's some important information in there that you really need to know, and it's important for you to understand the instructions, the application instructions, and we really want you to be successful. And if you have questions or need any additional information, please reach out to us. We're more than happy to help. With that, I'd like to turn the time over now to Mr. Greg Belay of the Integration Office, and he's going to go through a presentation that's going to outline all the interesting and fun facts of this year's CINR FOA. Greg.
Aaron, thank you. I'd like to add my voice to the welcoming comments. We appreciate that everyone can be with us today. In a general sense, I'll talk through an overview of the FOA. The document itself will outline the requirements for participation. We'll visit a little bit about the work scopes in terms of the areas in which they fall. Got some important information in terms of policy updates and reminders for this year. And then we will conclude by reviewing the processes, the tools, and the submissions. Additionally, we'll have tools for you on the internet that are downloadable to help you through the eligibility requirements as well as the list of required forms. If you'd like to ask questions during this webinar, the instructions are now on your screen. They're relatively easy to follow and are the same that we have been using from years past. The consolidated FOA objectives have not changed. Quite simply stated, it allows the department to make an informed decision on how they spend their dollars, to integrate the work across the programs and the variety of topical areas that are present. It also benefits you, the research community, in that you see all of the opportunities that are available at one time so that you can appropriately focus your efforts in your areas of interest. The funding mechanisms that we'll use this year are the same that we've had in years past. For universities, you will issue cooperative agreements out of the Department of Energy. National laboratories will use a work authorization process that's also managed by DOE. And industry will use the same cooperative agreement structure that the universities use. This is a collaborative opportunity in that you may co-join applications with the NSUF, either for a request of R&D support or for access only. We have the same eligibility requirements that we brought to you in 2013. We hope that the community has fully adjusted to those. I'll be detailing them. It ensures that the R&D is delivered in a necessary and timely manner to support programmatic issues. It encourages a diverse participation, and we also base it on no-cost time extensions, hopefully hoping to balance a project load so that the department does get completion of work. You can find a professional courtesy copy of this FOA on the NUP website. The actual and formal copy, the official copy, is hosted at grants.gov, and you will submit your applications online at neup.gov. Some important dates for you that John mentioned. We anticipate that we will release the FOA on August the 13th, shortly this week. Your letters of intent, if you are a NSUF participant, will be the 27th of this month. Pre-applications for those programs where they are appropriate will be September 17th. I want to make special note that pre-applications do not apply to the mission supporting EM1 work scope area. That will be a formal collaboration with the Japanese institutions. And the pre-applications do not apply to the IRP work scopes. The IRP applications will be due on December 3rd. Please make note of that. It is sooner than last year. Full applications will be called for December of 2015. That's an anticipated date where you will get your invited, not invited information. Full applications will be due by February 18th, 2016. The organization of the FOA will be familiar to those of you who have proposed in the past. University-led work scopes sponsored by NEUP, EM, and NSUF will be found in Appendix A for program supporting and mission supporting. The University National Lab or Industry-led work scopes, NEAT work scopes, will be in Appendix B. And the University National Lab or Industry-led NSUF work scopes for mission supporting are also in Appendix B, and Appendix C are our program-directed work scopes. We define program supporting, mission supporting, and program directed in the following terms. The program supporting directly supports NE programs. Mission supporting supports the mission of NE and therefore has a lighter weight on the relevancy. Program directed has the heaviest relevancy weighting with a full 50%, and those are directed by NE programs. These differences are fairly important as you prepare your application, so please do keep those in mind. For the university-led R&D that you'll find in Appendix A, our program supporting applications will be up to $800,000, mission supporting up to $400,000 with a period of performance of 3 years. Only universities are eligible to lead in this section of the FOA. However, all are welcome to participate. There are some requirements on the ceiling of funds that can be given to a collaborator other than universities, and that is 20% in composite. We expect approximately $40 million is available in this area, and we anticipate that'll total about 40 awards. For Appendix B, which is where you will find university, national laboratory, or industry-led applications, and all of the NSUF work scopes, program supporting up to $1 million, mission supporting up to $500,000. 3 years is your period of performance unless you have a NSUF application that may go as many as 7 years. Of course, all institutions are eligible to supply, universities, national laboratories, or industry. There is approximately $12 million, and we anticipate about 15 awards will be made from Appendix B. Here are your program-directed areas. These are your IRPs. There are 5 of them. Please note that 2 of these have been posted recently to the website just this morning. You'll find that the IRP FCEM1 is now available on the NUP website, as is IRP FC2. You can see there's approximately $21 million. Please do note that for IRP RC1, it is 3 years. For FC2, it may be up to 4 years. And for the FC1, it is 3 years, as are the others. Only universities are eligible to lead. It's fully expected that there will be robust and diverse collaborations in these areas. As far as the eligibility summary, Appendix A, only U.S. universities may lead. Appendix B, national laboratories, industry, or universities may lead. And Appendix C, only U.S. universities. We do have some guidance for you. We do expect that collaborations will be part of your application as necessary to accomplish the technical scope. We certainly anticipate that that diversifies DOE's research portfolio. For those university-led applications, clearly except for those work scopes under Appendix B, no more than 20% of the total budget may be provided to entities other than universities. If you are competing in Appendix B, which is sponsored by NEET, Crosscut, and/or some NSUF interests, there is no de minimis on the allowed collaboration funds. Funding is for U.S. university researchers only. International organizations are encouraged to collaborate. They must not be a denied party nor a party requiring an export license, and U.S. funding will not be provided to international collaborators. We do have some international collaborations that will be required. Those funds will be provided by the international collaborators. That collaboration requirement is specific for MSEM1 in that you must collaborate with a Japanese university or research institution. I'd like to remind you that pre-applications are not required for this work scope, so you'll have a little additional time to work out those collaborations and to land your application. For policy updates and reminders, these are important. Please know that your collaborations are considered final when the pre-application is submitted. This allows us to appropriately manage conflict of interest. We want to make sure that the definition of a collaborator is well understood this year. It must be someone who makes a defined material contribution that's critical to the success of the project. So if you have someone on your application who does not meet this guidance, please do not list them as a collaborator. You are responsible for selection of the appropriate work scope, and your application will be competed in the work scope to which it is submitted. You may submit your applications only to a single work scope. You may not compete them in multiple work scopes. For review purposes, conflict of interest restrictions will be attributed to the individual and not the institution if required. Applicants are responsible for not exceeding the submission limits. So if you have an institutional limitation, which we do have in our NEET area, please coordinate with other investigators in your home institution. Any material or request that is required by the FOA must be submitted on or before February 18th for the application to be considered for review. We've got an exhaustive list and table format that should make this easier for you this year. We'll have that in just a few minutes. Uninvited applications, of course, may be submitted as full applications as stipulated in the FOA. Do know that uninvited applications associated with NSUF submissions may not be further competed. This is due to the expense that is associated with feasibility assessments. So do know that that is a change for us that is significant. As we stated earlier, U.S. funding may not be provided to international institutions, and funded collaborations in Appendix A or C may not exceed more than 20%. For our submittal guidelines, you are ineligible to submit to this FOA as a PI if you are a lead PI on an active IRP, if you would have 3 or more R&D projects active after December 31st of 2016, and if you have a no-cost time extension on any NE-funded project that would be active beyond December 31st, 2016, you are ineligible. University PIs can be included on no more than 6 total pre-applications. No more than 3 of those submissions may be as the PI. For the full application submittal limit, you may not compete for more than you are eligible to win, and you may have no more than 1 IRP or 3 R&D projects at any time and may not submit more full applications than would be allowed. If you have NSUF applications, those will be reviewed on a case-by-case basis. Pairing with the Japanese utility, if that is permitted in MSME1, I believe that would be appropriate, and we'll further define that question for you and make sure that we get an appropriate response. Additional requirements for the submittal guidelines for NEET CTD funded research. Institutions are limited to 3 pre-applications per institution per work scope area. This is not a change. This has been in place for quite some time. For university PIs, those submissions count towards the pre-application limits. For IRPs, you're ineligible to submit as the PI If you are designated as a PI for more than one currently funded DOE NE research project that will still be active beyond December 31st, 2016. PIs may not submit an R&D application and an IRP application in the same year. NSUF projects that request R&D support are evaluated on a case-by-case basis, and NSUF access-only applications are exempted from eligibility restrictions. I want to remind you that at full application, we do have a semi-blind review. Your technical narrative will be vetted for the merit of the technical idea. We then reveal to your reviewers identities, institutions, etc. So please exclude the list of information that's on your screen now from your application. These are consistent instructions that have been in place since 2009. I just wanted to remind everyone of them. For those applications that do require NSUF access, you may name those facilities if needed. Cost sharing. We do encourage cost share for those applications led by universities, but it is not required. However, applications led by industry are required to have a 20% cost share from the lead institution, and that cost is based on the total allowable costs. So the TAC of the project is the sum of the government share that includes that share that goes to the national labs and the recipient share. If you are coupled with NSUF in terms of an R&D support request, you are responsible for cost share on that portion of funding that you are requesting as R&D support. The cost share does not apply for NSUF access only. We have in place for you, consistent with past years, Appendix D, which is data needs for validation. This is DOE's interest in leveraging multiple needs. If you have something that is appropriate or applicable in terms of the key data needs described in Appendix D, which would be in NEAMS or CASEL, there will be a space for you to indicate that. Please do evaluate your applications in light of the data needs and highlight any potential so that it can be captured by NE. Just a short piece on review process, tools, and submissions. The review processes are the same that you have had since the inception of the program. So program supporting and mission supporting applications are reviewed in a semi-blind process. Program directed or IRPs are not blind and they're reviewed by panel. We have a discrete weighting of the scores. This algorithm is also durable, has been with us since very early in the program. For mission supporting work, 80% of your score is technical, 20% is relevancy. Program supporting, 65% technical with the balance on relevancy. And program directed, of course, is equally weighted between relevancy and technical review. For NSUF access only applications, they will be scored for 80% of their technical merit and 20% on relevancy. We detail the review requirements in the FOA. Additional relevancy consideration is given for effective partnerships. Those include MSIs, which is minority serving institutions, underrepresented groups, which is an attribute of an individual, and we also have additional consideration for diverse partnerships. Importantly, that does not include national labs. Program priority is a separate criteria. We brought that to the FOA last year, and we detail that in the document as well. Here is your FOA at a glance. This details where the various program aspects come into play, the appendix in which you will find those appropriate sections, the estimated available budget, and please do know that is an estimate. We have the award size, the duration of the projects, the cost share requirements, and then the collaboration requirements. So do know that those, this information is here in one spot so that you can appropriately bin your application as needed. The next two slides detail the documents that are required. If there's a yes in the box and you identify yourself as the individual with that box, then it is required. Please do note that for some forms it is required of all, for other forms it is not. This information will be on the website as a tool that you can download, and it will also be here in this presentation that will also be uploaded. I'd like to point out that for the authorization of a national lab or an FFRDC, that document is required of the national laboratory whether they are a lead or a collaborator and whether they are funded or whether they are unfunded. If you have a national laboratory that is listed on your document as a lead, a funded, or an unfunded collaborator, you are required to have the authorization from DOE for them to participate. There's some tools for understanding the FOA that we alluded to earlier: the eligibility workflow, the technical points of contact, and the technical points of contact for the IRP. And we'll have these other documents loaded on the website for you as well. Here's some contacts for you. Your federal or technical points of contact can be found at neup.gov. Procurement question should be directed to Sean Tinsley out of the Idaho Operations Office. If you have questions for submittal of your general application, you can either send that to neup@inl.gov or the phone number that's listed. By calling that phone number, you'll be speaking with Drew Thomas. Here's just one more iteration of the dates before we close. And with that, would like to open the podium to questions, and I invite John Gilligan and Aaron Gravel to join me at the podium.
Okay, I'm Mike Worley, Program Director for Innovative Nuclear Research, and assist in answering some of the questions we've received so far. First question: when are MS-EM1 pre-applications due? On that work scope and that work scope only under Appendix A, a pre-application will not be required, and in fact should not be submitted. In working with the Japanese government, and the number of applications anticipated under that being limited, and helping meet the needs of the Japanese government on their funding, being able to support making their funding available to collaborators, we've decided it's in the best interest of both governments to not have a pre-application under that work scope. Next question.
Let's go to the next.
Next question, and related, is pairing with a Japanese utility permitted with MS-EM1? We're going to have to confirm with consult with the Japanese government on that and confirm, but as of now, we believe that partnering, collaborating with a Japanese utility will not be allowed. We believe the focus is to target collaborations with Japanese universities or research entities. But we will confirm one way or the other and give the answer out on the Q&A section of neup.gov.
If you're a PI on an NUP project that ends in January of 2017, yes, that project would count towards a 3 NUP. Your project must end by December 31st, 2016.
But yeah, I was just going to add that you could accelerate the ending of that project and get it done in December, and that's up to you. We can negotiate that. Question is, considering how critical instrumentation and controls is, what opportunities are available in this FOA for instrumentation and controls? Well, we tend to integrate all of our technologies together, but there are a number of opportunities, and just a few, like RC5, instrumentation, information and controls, under Rich Reister and Bruce Halbert, talks about sensors and passive signals. Another example for INC is NE1, which is nuclear energy cybersecurity implications and control room operations. And then there's certainly at least one IRP, which is on robotics, sponsored by EM, that has a lot of sensors and instrumentation issues associated with that IRP. So there are a number of, and that's just a highlight, there are many other opportunities for instrumentation and controls within the current set of work scopes.
The question is, do we need authorization letters from international collaborators? Don't believe that we need an authorization letter from international collaborators. Yes, 2/18 is the deadline for your full applications. That will be 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Mountain.
I'll have you repeat the question, but is the UK collaboration still considered for this year? Or is the main international collaboration opportunity with Japan this year?
We are in discussions with the representatives of the United Kingdom, and they are evaluating the work scopes in their draft form, and they will be getting back with us as soon as possible on the extent to which, if at all, they are able to collaborate. I know they very much wish to, but whether or not they're going to be able to will depend on the nature of our work scopes this year, how well they sync up with the United Kingdom's needs, and their funding limitations for the next fiscal year. So stand by on that. And as soon as we're able to get information on that, we will certainly put it out on neup.gov and our other communication links.
Is MSEM1 the only work scope that we can work with Japan, or are there other programs involved with Japanese collaboration?
You're certainly welcome to collaborate with Japanese on any area of the FOA. However, the only area in which there is funding available for the Japanese institutions will be in that work scope.
We'll repeat the question since I can't hear it.
My apologies. The question is the MSNE1 work scope the only work scope in which the Japanese may collaborate? And the MSEM1. My apologies. And the answer is no. They may collaborate in any work scope. However, funding for them will only be available from the Japanese government in that specific work scope.
Who can be university PIs? Can research faculty or other professional scientists be university PIs, or is it limited to only tenured/tenure track faculty?
No, that's a good question. The question was, can research faculty be PIs on these projects, postdocs, that would include postdocs and others from universities? And the answer is yes. That's determined by your own institution as to who can be a PI on a project. But if it's okay with your institution and they're standing behind you as a PI, then we will accept you as a PI. It's not a requirement that you be a tenure track faculty member in order to be a PI as far as DOE NE is concerned.
The question is if facilities outside of the recognized NSUF family are recognized as appropriate institutions. The answer is no. Only those institutions listed in the FOA as NSUF institutions are eligible for that section of the call.
I would only add that perhaps in the future some of those facilities could become part of NSUF and apply for that, but if it's not listed right now, then it couldn't be considered.
What opportunities address dry cask storage?
I believe we have an IRP that deals with misloading. John, other areas that are there will be detailed in the work scopes themselves. You may find nuances of that work in several areas.
Yes, there's certainly one IRP that Greg mentioned that is addressing dry cask storage related to transportation this time. So that's definitely a big one in there. And then there may be parts of other work scopes that are associated with dry cask issues, monitoring, sensing, and so forth.
Does a PI have to have at least 10 relevant publications to apply?
No, we have no de minimis on the number of applications or publications that a PI must have to apply.
Yeah, the requirement for being a PI is observed or determined by the university itself. So number of publications. The more publications you have as a faculty member, I'm a faculty member myself, so the more publications you have in your relevant area will help you get a better probably score and sense of having the proper background to do the work, etc. But there's no minimum requirement in terms of publications as far as the judging of the proposals.
The question is, can a PI fund a non-U.S. citizen graduate student? Do they have the question?
They can hear the question. He's got a mic. So
Okay.
Yeah.
The answer is the student may be funded if they are actively enrolled in a U.S. domestic institution. However, funding may not be sent to foreign institutions or international institutions in which that graduate student would be resident.
The only requirement on U.S. citizenship is for the fellowship program, if that's in fact authorized by Congress, and the scholarship program. But for support of students on research projects, yes, foreign students are allowed if properly supervised and export control regulations are observed, etc.
Do you have any statistical data about last year's success rate of full applications?
Yeah, we do have I have the data. It's about 25% of the total full applications that were submitted in the standard NEUP R&D project were funded. So that was consistent with previous years. It's in the 20 to 25% range, and that includes proposals that were uninvited but submitted anyway. So in other words, submitting a full proposal is, if you get to that point, chances of getting funded is much higher than NSF. In other words, it's on the order of 20 to 25%. But we can't guarantee that. That's not a guaranteed number. It's not a quota or anything like that. The success rate has typically been on that order.
Can the PI miss the letter of intent deadline but still submit a pre-application?
The only letter of intent that is required is for NSUF, and they may not be missed. If you are submitting or intend on submitting an application to the NSUF section, you must provide a letter of intent.
What opportunities address probabilistic risk assessment, PRA?
Of course, it is your responsibility to read the FOA and the included work scopes to determine that. I don't have an exact listing of those work scopes that have PRA in it.
It just comes to mind that there is a risk-informed work scope in particular that comes to mind that would involve PRA of some sort or a possibility of that. But yes, Greg is right. You'd have to look at the individual work scopes and see how that might be integrated into any of the analysis that is being done, say for VUQ or anything like that.
Is there a specific work scope to cover long-term surface storage of waste?
The answer to all questions involving what is or is there a work scope is that it is your responsibility to read those work scopes. You may find application for your technical area in many work scopes, so we would encourage you to read them all.
Does the NEAT NSUF fall under the NSUF requirements, or are there other work scopes that are NSUF related?
The NSUF work scopes that are offered are in Appendix B. That is the only place where we have NSUF applications that may either request R&D support and access or only access.
So to clarify, no other work scopes are available to use NSUF.
What Greg says is correct insofar as if the principal investigator wishes to receive funding from the NSUF program, the only way that's going to happen through this solicitation is if your proposal requests that funding through the NSUF-1 or NSUF-2 work scopes in Appendix B. In any work scope, if you wish to address how you might access or use a facility that's part of the NSUF suite of capabilities, that's fine. It just would have to be understood, and you would have to explain in your application how you're going to obtain that access. For example, if you are an MIT researcher and you intend to use the MIT reactor and you intend to use your internal capabilities or the R&D funds you're seeking to help fund your access into the reactor, that of course is fine. NSUF 1 and 2 are the means by which the NSUF major awards, irradiation, pi combo, beamline, awards are going to be made.
As a point of information, tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Time will be the NSUF overview where detailed information will be available on those opportunities. Under NSUF, can graduate students be supported by the university, or at the university, excuse me?
I'll invite my colleagues to correct me if I'm wrong, but under NSUF 1, if you need research funding to support a graduate student, you would seek it there, and there are work scopes in NSUF 1 for research that will be funded by and sponsored by the Reactor Concepts Program, the Fuel Cycle Technologies Program, and the Cross-Cutting Research Program. So as you'll see described in the work scopes and in the solicitation, you can obtain R&D funds if you are successful under NSUF 1. Those funds can be used as with any other R&D funds to support grad students. The NSUF funds that will be provided, not to the university, but to provide and fund the access to NSUF capabilities, are not authorized to be provided to fund the supporting graduate student who does the research.
So I think that's an important point that Mike made, that this year there in fact is dollars associated with NSUF R&D individually that can be used for that purpose. We had it in principle last year, but it was a little bit harder to access. I think we're trying to make it as more accessible as possible this year to allow that support of graduate students and others to stimulate use of NSUF.
The eligibility limit of 3 maximum R&D cooperative agreements by December 2016, is that strictly DOE R&D or for any federally funded R&D grant?
That's intended to be for DOE NE R&D.
So in other words, if you have NSF support or other support from Department of Defense or something like that, that would not count formally as part of against that particular limit.